I've tethered myself to the Lord. Like this times when I find myself being met with, who are you? Who do you think you are that you can be doing this? Like you are unqualified. You do not want to have what it takes. You don't have the time or the bandwidth. Tethering myself to the anchor of who God is and what he is in me and through me has been my saving grace. And I pray that that anchor is demonstrated. It's a demonstrative step that my kids go, wow, I want that faith.
You're listening to the Big Ideas Podcast with Ashlee Ilg. Tune in for honest conversations as we pursue bold dreams, redefine what is possible, and empower the next generation to live big. You'll hear stories that prove over and over again that just because something wasn't a part of our plan doesn't mean it won't be used for our good. Whether you're already an entrepreneur, you dream of becoming one, or you're raising the next generation of entrepreneurs, this podcast is for you. There's no time to waste on your big ideas. So let's get started. Here's your host, Ashlee Ilg.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Big Ideas Podcast. I'm so excited for another episode of this season. I just hope y'all have been enjoying these as much as I have. But I am joined with me today with my friend Kaase Levell. She is a mom. She's a podcast host. She's the founder of the Literally magazine. And yeah, first and foremost, welcome to the show, Kaase.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be here.
Yes. So I do have to tell you this really fun fact. So when I went to college, I originally wanted to be a magazine editor, and I did do some editing on a magazine, but it was never my own. And so when I first found you on social media and we just started kind of following each other, getting to know each other, obviously I subscribed to your magazine. My daughter loves it. We're going to get into all of that. But I was like, I just immediately wanted to be your friend because I'm like, she's doing the thing that I always wanted to do. And the heart and the passion and like the purpose behind it, I was like, this is so good. I wanted to take you out for coffee. I mean, I'd have to cross the country to come take you for coffee, but be like, what'd you do? How'd you do it? How do you design your spreads? How did you choose this and that, So I'm a big fan.
I have to say, it's so funny that you mentioned that though, because when the dream was sort of birthed, I was like, Lord, I don't want to do this. I'll help somebody, but I actually hired a graphic designer and she produced 3 different versions. And I was like, no, this is not the angle I'm going. And so the Lord literally said to me one morning, Kaase, you're going to do this yourself. I need you to do this. You literally are going to do this. And so, man, what a journey it's been. But that literally speaks so deeply to my heart because that was never the intention. I never intended to be the one producing all the things. So thank you for that. That's incredibly meaningful. So,
well, what you just said is incredibly meaningful because that's the whole purpose behind so many of our episodes on this podcast, right? Of how many times do I say it where we're just like, God, I've got some really great plans. This is how we should do it. And he's like, okay, hang on, daughter of mine. This is actually not at all how we're going to do it. And just hold on tight because it's going to be a little scary. You're going to be really uncomfortable, but I promise it's going to work out. And even so, I really wanted to kind of deep dive on this topic too, that, personally, I love sharing how the parts of our story that we think are the messiest or the things that just have completely disqualified us, that the enemy has maybe tried to twist and create shame around or twist and think that we're just no longer, I don't want to say useful, but in a position to help others. We'll just say that. And God's like, nope, also I can redeem that. And also we can actually use the things, I'll use your word, literally things that you thought disqualified you. That is literally the thing that I will use to draw people in, to help them see that I'm real and that they too can do the thing. So let's just deep dive on all of that, right? So I would love to hear, I've read a little bit of your story, but I've never heard you just tell the story of why did the podcast, so your podcast and your magazine are both geared toward helping, guiding, encouraging teen girls, which is such my heart, obviously your heart. So many listeners have daughters, have friends with daughters. Why does that matter for you? Why did these projects, obviously, like you said, God was like, no, you're doing this. Why you? Why does it matter? Why, what did it look like to start all that? Just kind of drop us into that, whatever part of your story you want to start with.
Well, it's big and it's robust, so buckle up. That's all I can say. Let me see where to even start. So I grew up in a small town in Kansas, and my whole life I was destined for great things in my head. I was ready to leave this small town, and I went about 4.5 hours away for college. I joined a sorority. I had a really rough upbringing, super bullied, super ostracized. Small town in Kansas wasn't super friendly. I was a competitive dancer my whole life. And I think that I just was in a really weird position where the things that I pursued almost made me a target, and without apologizing, but it was like I was good at dancing. And so it put a target on my back. And I think that much of my life, for those reasons, whether it was sports, it's sort of like the Lord really, I was very intentional about surrendering all the things. Like anytime I had a dance competition, we would pray, we would give it to him. It was for his glory, not for mine. Yeah. And I just think he very beautifully blessed anything that I put effort into, as long as I put him at the forefront. And so all of that middle high school, I was just targeted, and it really led to a very, very toxic upbringing in this small town. So fast forward a little bit, I go to University of Kansas, and I am like determined that I am going to get a fresh start, and joined a sorority. And what was interesting was the bullying kind of just took on a different format. It really just turned into more of like shape shifting and morphing into who I thought others wanted me to be. And I think that the sorority life really exacerbated that. There were beautiful things about it, but there were also a lot of toxic things about it. It was a season in my life where I really stepped away from the Lord. And I came back my freshman year of college for Christmas, and I really didn't have or keep or maintain friendships. Once I went away to college, I was really ready to just sever those ties. And when I came back, I had one guy friend left, really, that I felt like I trusted and enjoyed spending time with. And so I reached out, and we kind of got together for New Year's Eve. Long story short, he put the date rape drug in a drink at a party that we were at. And I was sexually assaulted that night. And it's a horrendous story. But I think in the aftermath of that, the Lord really revealed to me, man, it's just such a journey. I get lost in it. But let me not digress. So this happened. My parents didn't believe me. It was a really rough aftermath. And it was sort of like, we don't know how to handle this, Kaase, so we're just going to send you back to college. We're so sorry this happened. But like, I go back to college and I start self-sabotaging. And I do a lot of coping and numbing and sorting through, like, how do I deal with all of the weight of this and come out on the other side? And so really what it resorted to was, if you appear fine on the outside, you're going to be fine. And so I turned to shopping addiction and eating disorder, absolute debauchery, just really, really bad decisions. And it took me so many years. I will fast forward. It was years upon years of self-sabotaging. Finally, I graduated college. I moved to Los Angeles with a job, more self-sabotage, more partying, more bad choices. And finally, the Lord found me in that mess when I was in Los Angeles, and he slowly started poking, slowly started prodding, a very gentle drawing me back. And through a series of events, I decided to move back to the Midwest, sort of where I grew up. Ended up in Chicago, and it was a slow climb out of this black, dark hole. It was not easy. It was a gruesome climb out. I feel like I had to claw my way out, and just met with so much grace in that process. But I hate to say this, but it was so many years. I mean, for the latter part of 20 years after the assault, I was hiding. I was so desperate to not be found or seen. I got off all social media. I paid companies to have my name deleted from like searchable, findable things on the internet. I was so desperate to just not be found. It was so much shame. And like, really the aftermath of that was this narrative, like, I deserved this. Like, I made a poor decision to have a drink, and that led to this outcome. So for so long, it was my fault, and I invited it. And so, man, just such a rough handful of years. And then here we are at the climax of the story. 20 years of this. And I had been married. I had had children. I was still struggling with eating disorders and shopping addiction. And the Lord just said, you're done. It's time to stop hiding. We're not going to hide anymore. It's time to come out of this hiding. I'm ready to use you. Are you ready? Are you ready to see the world? And so over the last handful of years, I have just sort of explored what it's been. I will be totally honest with you, because talking into this entrepreneurial spirit, it's been a lot of like throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks. It's almost an embarrassing season of my life, but like I have launched so many businesses and ministries and endeavors and entrepreneurial hearted things that have failed. And what's so funny is, in retrospect, I look back now, this is literally only in the last year. I screenshotted my Instagram one time because I had started so many ministries that Instagram, at my last endeavor, so for Literally Magazine and my podcast, I got a notification saying, you have tried to create too many Instagram names.
Oh my goodness.
You're going to have, like, you cannot launch anymore because you've tried so many and they've all failed. And only this time have I been able to connect to, okay, Lord, it was all of that throwing at the wall to really find out who my audience was, what my message was, what my heart was. It took all of those fails to finally land where he wanted me. And for so long, it was just shame wrapped up in another failure, another failure, another failure. God bless my husband. He's like, if we file for one more 501c3, I don't even know. Like, our taxes are a hot mess. But so my heart for teen girls comes from being bullied, growing up in a really toxic environment, and recognizing how I always was, I saw other people as my best friend and I was never seen as the best friend. Just coping through, like, how do we live in that tension of like, this season is really stinking hard. And then it took me a lot of different endeavors to identify, like, I love women and I struggled so much in my adult life. Like, I would love to help women who are just now connecting to a lot of trauma that they had in their upbringing. I find that a lot of women I talk to, when I share my story, they go, me too. This happened. Thanks for sharing, because I've never told anyone.
Right.
And number two, I've held this trauma for so long. I'm just now starting to connect to it. And so that's why it was such a rub. It was like, do I speak to these women who are living in the aftermath of trauma and trying to connect with healing? Or do I speak to the girls who I can potentially change the trajectory of their future through the grace and the Holy Spirit, navigating and helping guide me to help them? And really, it was only through experimentation and lots of trial and error that I realized the Lord was calling me to teen girls.
Yeah.
That answer your question?
Oh,
wow.
So much. And it made me think of so many more. I mean, we could just pause on that and just ping pong all around that. So, hey friend, I wanted to take a quick pause to ask if you've taken the quiz yet to find out what type of dreamer are you. It's super important to discover what's working for you, but also some things that may be keeping you from really pursuing your greatest purpose. It takes just 2 minutes to find out if you're the skimboarder, the sunbather, the sandcastle builder, or the surfer babe. So jump over to dreamerquiz.com and be sure to share your results and tag me in it. Now back to the show. I mean, I'm sure you've heard the saying, like, you know, you mentioned like your target audience, the person you're out to serve. Like, it's always the person that you could have used back when you were that age, right? Or you were in that season. So, well, I'm restating something that I've heard other people say, but yes. So it's so good when, like I said, I could just see and like perceive your heart behind the projects without even knowing that full story, just because I'm like, the story's got to be so good, because I can tell how just rich your content is and real it is. And, you know, like my daughter was like, this is my favorite one, Mom, you know, and so beautiful. Yes. So I want to go back, because as an entrepreneur, mom, all the things, woman who's, you know, sought healing in my own stories, you mentioned how, you know, these failures, you know, previous business failures are, you know, potentially bringing you shame, or just this extended 20-year process of healing and figuring out, like, where do I go from here? How do I process all of this? And I'm not trying to just blasé throw, you know, bright red ribbon over, God's obviously redeeming it all. Nothing is wasted. Like this is not the podcast for Christianese cliches, whatever. But yet I can't help but say, I don't think you'd be here today if you hadn't gone through all of those other stepping stones to realize this is good, but this isn't it,
Yeah.
And
yeah, I think to that point, not to cut you off, to that point, there are so many moments where I still connect to this really, really angry place of like, God, how did you let that happen? Like, you're a good God and you let that happen. And the only semblance of sanity that I can bring out of that is literally just going, okay, but I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here. Like, whatever the steps were that got me to where I am, if that hadn't happened, I would not be sitting here having this conversation with you today. And, there's going to be people listening. There's going to be so many people listening who go, me too, happened to me too. I've never told anybody, because that's literally the response I get from people.
Yeah.
But it's just so funny how I think what you're saying, we see it looking like this. And then when it doesn't, we go, okay, I can choose to be angry and turn away or play it safe or play small, or I can trust and know I may not understand everything this side of heaven. And that's the other place I've had to get to. I don't know that we always get explanation.
Right.
I don't think we serve a God who's going to be like, let me give you every detail, Kaase. And God allows things to happen, but this to say, I don't know that we will always understand this side of heaven. And so then we are at the crossroad of choosing. We have a choice. We have a choice to go left or right. And so, but I'll tell you, I went left every single time until recently when God forced me to go right. So yeah.
I mean, yeah. On this side of heaven, we can't explain all the things, but we can always land on God is good.
Yeah.
And his words are true. And I'm just really trying not to just put a red ribbon over hard stories.
Yeah.
But you mentioned, wanting to hide, wanting to disappear, wanting to just kind of not be found. And then you just mentioned wanting to stay safe. And so I'd love for you to just kind of share how, staying safe is actually not safe at all. Like, it's not putting us in a position to heal. It's also for sure not letting us use our stories and our testimonies to serve others and maybe help others. So maybe kind of talk about that tension of like, I don't want to step out. That feels way too scary. Safe feels better. But like now in the position you're in and things that you've walked through, how is, what you thought was safe is really not safe at all.
So let me speak. I'm going to like interchangeably use the word safe and like the tension of disappointment.
Okay.
I, for probably a year, have camped on the verse where it talks about hope deferred makes a heart sick, right? And I think so often safety is such an illusion. Like, we think we're safe. And I think we have this level of control that we in fact do not, right? And so this story begins in, my daughter was diving into club volleyball this season. And we had a very tumultuous summer leading into this. And she wanted to pray bold prayers. And I found myself almost cringing at it because what it evoked in me was the safety, right? Like, I'm like, oh, no. Let's not pray big. Let's just pray for health, and we don't want any injuries, and we're just going to have a great season. And I think that what happens in that safety is like, we start to lower our expectations, and it's a mechanism to like protect our hearts, right?
Yeah.
It's actually a trap, right? We trade the God of abundance for the God of minimal, settling for these safe dreams because we're too tired of being disappointed again, right? We have to address this reality that a life without the risk of disappointment is a life without the possibility of a God-sized move. And so I think it's just one of those things where I have been playing it safe in a lot of things. And I get to this place where I run all these scenarios. Like, I don't know if you've heard, Beth Moore does a series where she talks about taking the worst case scenario and playing it all the way out and seeing where that lands you. And like, worst case scenario, you still go, God is still good, right? Like, if my daughter dies, God ultimately is still good. And like you play all these hypotheticals out in your head. But I ultimately think it's that grasp for control, this need for safety, and our protection of disappointment. And I have lived with such a sick heart for so long. It's like, it's so funny. Like God was calling me out of this season, stop hiding, stop hiding. And he opened so many doors. Like it was ridiculous. He opened this door for this writing conference. And then he opened a door for me to pitch a book publisher. And I pitched the book and the publisher loved it and was like, send me an entire book proposal. And so I did. And I waited 11 weeks. And not only was it like such utter rejection, it was like utter rejection. Like, here's what they said: your story is too much. You are too much. And we would never back this story. So, I mean, it just was like, I mean,
Oh my
I
word.
tell you how much rejection I've seen in this entrepreneurial pursuit that has forced me out of safety to play it small, to play it safe, to protect my heart against further disappointment. And really, what it lends itself to is lowering the bar so low that we just cannot be met with disappointment again. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a self-preservation, right, mechanism. Yeah.
Physically, but our heart has checked out to avoid the vulnerability of wanting something big ever again,
Yeah.
right? So it's this like quiet withdrawal where you use these shallow prayers and these low bars so that it's like a suit of armor to keep God at a distance. And so I've lived there even in the last year. Like there's been a lot of rejection with the podcast, so many speed bumps with the magazine. Like so many times I find myself saying, am I on the wrong course? Like, do I need to like start over? But I just would say, in speaking to the safety element and the disappointment and the expectations, like being an entrepreneur, if we're never going to see God-sized moves, if all we ever do is pray it safe, play small prayers, and lower the bar so low that we never give God a chance to show up and play big, right?
Yeah.
But I think that we all have been in that place. So it's learning how to like, and I'm still here. I still sit in the tension of like, God, how do I trust you and walk forward faithfully, taking just the very next step? I'm literally sitting here today in that same spot being like, God, what's the next step? Because my bar is low right now. I don't think I can handle another bout of disappointment or rejection. And so anyways, I think that entrepreneurs are constantly faced with this daily. Like, how do we, I kind of pivoted there a little bit, so I apologize, but I think that the safety is such an illusion. And I think in our pursuit of safety, oftentimes we find ourselves as entrepreneurs lowering the bar and like protecting our expectations and our potential future disappointment.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think to add to that too, I mean, I fully agree with that. I think, you know, as an entrepreneur myself and just facing these same things on a daily basis, just if we like just recognizing it when it happens and realizing, okay, if I'm playing too small, if I'm like you called it, lowering the bar of my expectations, then what does that say about who I think God is?
Right.
Right? Like it's minimizing him and like putting him in a box or shrinking his capabilities or, you know, limiting his promises that have never failed. And I mean, it's like this humbling, like, oh, wow, God, I'm so sorry. You're right. I really can screw this up royally, but like you've literally never let me down. I feel like I keep saying literally now since I've been talking.
No, and honestly,
I'm going to catch myself now.
Me too. I hear you.
But yeah, I think when we take our eyes off of who God is and we just start focusing on what can't I do? What am I not great at? What are my limits? Then we're already so off track that, that's where I catch myself anyway.
I think this is the hill that I will die on. My friend once told me, she said, we're forced to choose the pain of a fractured relationship or the ramifications of low expectations. I hope I said that slow enough so people can really like let that soak in. If we choose low expectations, we're going to get a life that's predictable and controlled and utterly boring. We avoid the sting, but we lose the story. And I think it's what you just said. You basically say, I don't trust you enough to even ask anymore. So you're now putting the father's reputation on the line. That polite distance might feel safe, but the ramifications will echo for years. It's like this cold, stagnant way to live that eventually leads to this bitter heart because you've stopped believing that God is actually for you.
Right.
So when we choose that fractured connection, the messy, God, I don't get this, honesty is actually the bravest and probably most hopeful thing that you can do, right?
Yeah.
I think that a fracture means there's still a relationship to break,
Yeah.
right? It means there's a bond that is still there. There's still heat and there's still friction. I'd rather that messy, loud, honest fight with God than a polite distance roommate situation.
Yeah, all day. And I mean, he's listening to us, so much too, obviously. It's a relationship. And so
Yep.
I feel like the more I talk to God, the more I bring what you're calling a fractured relationship, you bring in those frustrations like, God, why did you let this happen? Or why is this not working yet? Or, what are we doing here? There's so much grace, and he's like he created us the way we are. So like if you're Enneagram 3 or a recovering perfectionist, or I'm trying to think of all the labels of myself that people would relate to, but or whatever your strengths and or weaknesses are, God created you like that. And so he's not surprised when you are maybe doubtful or questioning or a little worried. And I think the more we go to him in honest conversations like that, and just confessions, and just like a dad, and a daughter, and just having a conversation, I think the more he realizes like I can speak honestly to her. And for me personally, the more I speak with God and the more my conversations are more and more honest, I feel like the more honest words I get back from him. And, and the guidance is just so pure. I was just sharing this with a friend too, but we were kind of seeking clarity on a direction and a decision we needed to make. And I really wanted the answer to be yes. Like my whole mom heart just wanted the answer to be yes. And it felt like something we kind of been waiting on, like, this is it. This is the right answer. Like, God, just give us, it's a big decision though. So I was like, God, we want a yes or a no for sure. And I clearly heard him say, this is really close, but I am not the God of close. I am the God of exceedingly abundantly more than you could ever ask or imagine. Wow. And I was like, I can't unhear that,
Wow.
And I was like, I mean, there was like a 2 seconds where I was like, did I hear that right? Are you sure? Because my flesh really wanted the yes, but I couldn't unhear it. And I had, 5 minutes later, I had so much peace with sharing with my husband and with the kids that this is actually not the right move right now. And here's why. Here's what God told me. And I just feel like the more and more conversations I have with him that are just completely gut-wrenching honest, he speaks so clearly and he's just so trustworthy.
But I think that's the high stakes. So I'm just going to rebound off of you for 2 seconds. This is what keeps me up at night. So I have been in youth ministry for years, and I was seeing this. So I recently went back. My oldest is going to be an 8th grader. And I recently went back sort of alongside her. And I would go every Sunday night, and these girls would request these sweet, soft, gentle prayers of like, dear Jesus, bless my mom, bless my, God bless. And our girls are watching us. If they see us handle every no by retreating into a smaller, safer version of life, we are handing them a blueprint for a small faith. If I tell my daughter to play it safe with her volleyball prayers just to save her from a sad car ride home, I'm accidentally teaching her that God is someone she has to be careful with, right? I want to pass down a faith that knows how to handle a no without losing its whoa, right? We empower this next generation to live brave and big when we show them that even when the dream dies, our God is still the resurrection and the life. And I think that is the vehicle to getting there, is getting raw and real and unsafe in our prayers. If all we ever do is pray the safe, small prayers, if all we ever do is stay here, we are never going to understand that there is a God that is good, that is exceedingly abundantly than we ask or imagine. So I think, I don't know. My point is, it has a legacy, right? There's a legacy here where we are modeling this. We have to be mindful of what our up on, because it's not just our faith, it's also their faith.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, that was a whole topic I wanted to get into, but I was going to ask you, so how did you talk with your daughter when you were kind of cringing at the prayers when they were so big and bold? So
So
how did
yeah, I
that
love
conversation, full circle
it.
us?
It was a real come to Jesus moment. Like I had to wrestle with the Lord. I get up really early. It's like my time when my kids are not awake, homeschooling them.
Yeah.
I'm with them all the time. And so I really had to like take very, very intentional few days to wrestle through like, God, how do I walk her through this? Like I have lived in a lot of the wake of disappointment with her, especially being homeschooled. Like friendship stuff is totally different with homeschool kids. And so I really wanted to play this one smart, not safe, but smart. And I feel like what the Lord said is the way back to a big life isn't by trying harder to be happy. It's through this like high capacity lament, right? It was teaching her that crying out honestly to God so they can, for lack of a better word, like clear the porch of their hearts for the next big thing that God has. It's like if we only stay in this safe zone, um, I wanted her to see that she could be met with big prayers. Can I be honest with you? We have been praying big prayers this whole season. And I'm going to
Mm,
tell you what, we have only been disappointed. It
mm,
has been the hardest season of a sport that we have experienced to date. It has not been met with exceedingly abundantly. But I can also say this. I know there's another side to this coin. And
yeah.
it may not we may not see it a week after. We may not see it in this season. It may be 2 months till we see it. It may be 2 years till we see it. It's not at all what we thought it was going to look like. But what I do know is God has a plan. He is building resilience in her.
Mm,
He is way more concerned about her character than he is her playtime. And I think that it has taught her to lament. It has taught her to get really real with her Lord. It has taught her to turn to God as a father, not turn to God as a dream, like a rub the genie bottle and your dreams
right.
come true. And watching these girls have such a transactional faith in this season of life where A plus B equals C until it doesn't, until the
Mm,
A plus B doesn't equal C, has been a very incredible gift to walk through with her and watch her and teach her and mold her into it's not always going to be A plus B equals C. In fact, more often than not, it's not going to be your
mm,
equal C. And so, anyways, it's been I think it was a season of walking through lamenting. It was a season of walking through we can sit in the disappointment and we're still going to be okay because God is still good. He does still have a plan and ultimately he is still sovereign.
yeah.
Having the opportunity to teach her about sovereignty. It's hard though. This
It
season is really
is.
teach those things. It's a very big concept for minds that are limited in their understanding. But
Mm,
I will say there was no like one and done. It's a continual,
right.
constantly walking through this.
Mm,
But I try to always push back on the safe prayers. I'm like, that's too safe. Let's pray something
yeah.
bigger. Let's go bigger.
I love that.
Let's stop lowering that bar.
Yeah. Well, as somebody whose podcast is called Big Ideas,
Yeah.
our homeschool is called Big Ideas Academy. I mean, we are like our golf cart shop is Big O's golf cart. Like it's just we like fully embrace the bigness of
Yes.
God and the bigness of his plans and also know how to sit and like, this doesn't feel good.
You know what, though,
And
Ashley,
just yeah.
you give people permission to be big.
Yeah.
Your narrative, your branding, your what you emulate and you embody in what you do gives me permission to feel braver in my big,
Mm,
if that makes sense. So
I love that.
you're
Thank
doing
you.
good things. It's true. It really
Oh,
is true because, for a person who is heartsick and comes from a lot of disappointment, we like feed off of, we
yeah.
piggyback off of those people around us who are big and who are bold. I am not innately that way. I still default to a sick heart and playing small and playing safe. So
Mm.
you give people a beautiful permission. So never underestimate the power that God has given
Thank
you
you.
through that.
I
So beautiful.
appreciate that. Well, and that was honestly one of the things I want to, not me personally, but just the power of community when you were talking about
Amen.
just that, how do you get out of it when you are stuck and you are feeling like, I feel more comfortable here and I failed so much. How do I get back up again? I wasn't even really planning on asking you this, but it just struck me as you were talking. I was like, well, how do you get out of it when, okay, you know to open your Bible, you know to pray, but like there are days when you are just not going to want to.
Yeah.
And so do you have, talk about the importance of just having people in your corner, having people that one of my favorite, I'm going to completely butcher the quotes. I'm not even going to try to, but it's basically the point of surround yourself with the doers, the dreamers, the people that believe bigger, but then also know how to remind you of what you want and what you've been promised and I'm completely, like I said, I knew I was going to butcher it, but basically surrounding people of what you're capable of. That will remind you when you have forgotten, and just my community. I'm just so thankful for, the prayer warriors and the friends and the women who've just always had my back. And seasons have changed. A lot of women have come and gone and come back, or, there's people are always in your life for just the right season. And I can't ever get enough of that. And just seeing the beauty and all those thin threads in those relationships. But maybe talk for a minute of just the power of that community when you are at the end of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I would point to a few things here. So I would say number one, when you say community, I think professional first, because I think sometimes we think that there's enough mustering, white knuckling that we can do to rebound. And I think that the reality and the humbling place sometimes is staring face to face the reality of like, I can't do this without some professional intervention. So number one. Number two, just I think it's super important to have a very supportive family around you who believes in you and who is like your strength on those days that are weak, because there's so many weekdays, even in entrepreneurship, right? Like it's so intense. There's so many highs and so many lows and so much volatility, and it's real. So you really need an anchoring, stabilizing force in your life. And I think that comes from family. I think God blessed us and gifted us uniquely with that. But I also think that I think there's an interesting tension in community. And I am going to tread lightly here. It's a tightrope that I'm walking for sure. But I think that, like you said, there are seasons where people are in our lives. I have been in seasons where community was essential. I was deeply involved in Bible studies. I had people laying hands on me in prayer, just speaking healing over my life. I also had seasons where the Lord was like, all you need is me right now. I'm going to strip everything else away. And if I'm being totally honest, I have been in a weird season of like, you think what I need right now is community, but really what I think the Lord has been showing me is like, I am enough. I really am enough. And there will be seasons where you are going to be deeply filled by community. But Kaase, this season that you're in right now, I am enough and I am sufficient and my grace is perfect in your weakness. And so I think that there's both and. I don't think it's either or. And I know that you get that. But I just think what's interesting is that there's going to be seasons of both. And it may not look like what we think it's going to look like, because I really do think both serve a purpose in due season.
Yeah.
I also think two things to this end is the stakes are higher now. When I became a mom, everything on the line had a ripple effect. Yeah. So it wasn't just about me. All of a sudden, my safe prayers weren't just impacting me. They were impacting my children, right? Yeah. I think recognizing that the stakes are higher and that it's not just about me, it's about the next generation and what I model for them has totally changed my approach. So that's how I think I've tethered myself to the Lord. Like this times when I find myself being met with, who are you? Who do you think you are that you can be doing this? Like, you are unqualified. You do not want to have what it takes. You don't have the time or the bandwidth. Tethering myself to the anchor of who God is and what he is in me and through me has been my saving grace. And I pray that that anchor is demonstrated. It's a demonstrative step that my kids go, wow, I want that faith.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so good. I'm trying to figure out what I want to ask you next, because I've got time maybe for two more questions. So for those listening who are like, okay, so tell me more about the podcast and the magazine. Like, I've got daughters. This sounds like something that they could totally benefit from. Can you give us maybe like a little sneak peek of like some of the topics and the content that you share on both platforms?
Love it. Okay. So the podcast really was born it's like so God breathed. Okay. So I was in youth ministry. I'm serving on Sunday nights, and these girls would keep coming on Sunday nights and they would have questions. And we did a forum one night. We had hundreds of kids that come to youth group on Sunday nights, and they did like a Q&A where you could anonymously text in a question. It would go up to the pastor on stage, and then a panel of different pastors in our church would answer those questions. They said that the floodgates of questions, it was so bombarded with questions. They got to like 1/16 of the questions that were sent in. And it was just like the Lord just said to me, Kaase, that's the need. Like I've been praying, like, God, what is the need? And so when the Lord dropped this on me, I was like, oh my gosh, this is the bomb. Like we need a Q&A format, anonymous Q&A format for teen girls to ask their questions. And so the podcast started a year ago, and I was like, okay, God, I don't know what I'm doing, but this is great. And so it was just such a God thing. Like it just kept climbing and climbing and climbing. And then all of a sudden I'm getting flooded with questions and questions and questions. And for a long time, I was like, God, I can't just do questions because I'm not going to get enough. Much to my surprise, I had so many questions. I could not tend to them all, but I wanted more than that. And so I decided that like simultaneous to these peppered in Q&A podcast specific episodes, I would answer the questions. They would be able to choose, do I give my name? Do I not? Do I want to be anonymous? Do I want to say where I'm from? So there's a lot of freedom in that. But above and beyond that, like they were seeking more. They were like, they were searching and they wanted more. And so that was the point that the Lord was like, give it substance, like go deeper. And so simultaneous to these Q&A podcast episodes, I started doing like last season, we walked through the life of Joseph. And for like 40 episodes, we walked all through the life of Joseph and how those lessons apply to teen girls in 2025, right? So I do all these Q&A podcast episodes where they can go to my website and submit any question. You do not have to put your name. And then I usually, if you do leave an email, I usually reply back with an email acknowledging that I got it and giving them some advice immediately because these podcasts take a little while to create. And so it's been beautiful. And honestly, I've had as many women, moms write in with questions, or also just like, how do I navigate this? So I've had just as many moms as teen girls. But it's so beautiful because I'm like, honestly, it's such a ministry to both that I just never expected. So God just blew my mind. Then, so that's the podcast. Then, and I'm doing a really fun summer episode where they're just 5-minute blurbs. I'm calling them Sun-Kissed and Sanctified. And this summer, every Tuesday and Thursday, there'll be just like 5-minute blurbs, what the Lord is teaching me.
That's amazing. And that's the For Real Let's Talk podcast.
Yeah, For Real Let's Talk. FR. I know moms are like, what's for real? It's FR is literally what the branding is. So if you ever search it, FR Let's Talk. But so that's how you can find that. And the website is forreallet'stalk.com where girls can submit any question.
Perfect. And we'll include all the links in the show notes too.
Love it. Love it. And then from that, I started getting some following, and I've never been on social media up until last year, have always been off. And so I've built from the ground up. And as girls started finding me, they literally communicated, hey, we want something more. And again, I was like, I don't want to do a Bible study. I don't want to do a Right Now media video. I don't want to, like, what do I do? So I put a survey out there, giving them 3 options of things I could offer. And unanimously, they all said they wanted a magazine, which was uncanny and so like God. I had been writing for a magazine called the Sisterhood Magazine. And it was a magazine for women, for moms. And I had the blessing of kind of tapping Kathy, who runs the Sisterhood Magazine's mind, and just saying, is this feasible? Like, could I do this for real? And she's like, well, it would be a pretty big undertaking, but God.
Right.
And so here we are. We're 3 issues in, and it has been so rewarding. I've gotten incredible feedback, and just what the Lord has done in and through that has been unspeakable. I don't have the words to articulate it, but only God.
Yeah. And so maybe I love all that. And like I've mentioned, we've subscribed to the magazine and Hannah loves it and everybody needs to get their copy. When this episode drops, your April issue will have just dropped. So there's plenty of time to subscribe and you can order back orders and all of that stuff too. So anytime you're listening, even if this is years from now, you can still get it.
Absolutely.
But as maybe sort of a wrap-up question, although I feel like I could just keep talking.
I know.
I have 4 boys, and so it's not often that I just get to talk about raising daughters and all of those things, and just the things that are on our hearts as moms raising daughters and not wanting to pass along the junk that we didn't take the time to heal from. And so I just love your story of just the bravery and the sitting in the whole, all of it, just to know like this matters because I don't want to pass this on. My daughters don't need this. God is big enough to carry it, and just pursuing all of that, not just for your own good, but for theirs. And I don't take that lightly. I so respect you for your journey and just your ability to share it so truthfully and everything. And so, you know, for the women listening, the moms listening who are maybe in a similar situation, like you've said, you've had many who are like, yep, that's me also. What are you hoping your daughters are learning from watching you? Not just in showing up for the projects, but like in your journey for your personal growth and that healing journey. I don't want to speak for myself. So like, I know what motivates and inspires me to like keep going and do the hard work for the benefit of my children and for my own wholeness. But the work you're doing is so needed, specifically for girls in this generation and this world that they're growing up in. And so, you know, for the moms listening, what's the encouragement for our own healing and also just pointing our girls to the things that really matter?
So I'm going to start this answer in a really little bit loopy place, but I had been in a really dark season with my girls. I had started experiencing these dreams in the middle of the night, and I'm not one who has a lot of these experiences. So it was very awry to me. And what the dreams were me. It was always my kids drowning either in quicksand or water, and I was trying to pull them out. And so I was like reaching for their hand, trying to pull them out. And the Lord revealed to me that I was inserting myself as their savior. And that as long as they had mom as a savior, they wouldn't need a savior. And so this has always been my guiding light since in this, in the wake of this season of these dreams that the Lord gifted me with, and I say this first and foremost, homeschooling my kids is my first priority. Like everything else falls second to them. Right. And I think so often, and you're going to get this, I know you will. I am an Enneagram 3. I am passionate about everything that I do, and it will be done with utter perfection, right? The problem is that's also a flaw. Right. And if I'm not careful, I will bulldoze over my own kids in the pursuit of other teen girls. And so I'm constantly checking myself. But I think to answer your question, number one, I think we have to recognize that God is so gracious. He will always keep us properly aligned if we are putting him first. And like, what a blessing that God properly aligned me and said, stop playing savior. You were never meant to be that role. So it lifted such a heavy weight off of my shoulders. And it's constant daily check-in of like, I'm inserting myself as savior. Get yourself out of the savior role. But I think the reason that I do it, and I hope that what my girls take from this is that, you know, what's interesting is I haven't shared my personal story with them. They're not old enough. 13 and 11. There would be so much they would not connect to or understand. I pray constantly about the day when it's right to share this with them. So they only have a sliver of mom's story to date, which is interesting. But my hope is that someday when they really are in that transactional faith and it doesn't play out the way that they hoped, that they look at mom and go, but God is still good, and goodness follows you wherever you go. And I think, what is that verse in Psalm? Goodness and mercy will follow you everywhere you go. I think it's Psalm 23, the latter part of Psalm 23. But I want my kids to be brave, and I want them to know that. I think so often I put my dreams on hold for so long. I'm such a dreamer. I am such a dreamer. And it's literally how I connect to God. Like you said, God gives you these things. My dreamerness is my connectivity to the Holy Spirit. So when I am severing my dreamer tie with the Lord, I am disconnecting myself from my Father. So I want my kids to say, no, dreaming is not a paralysis. It's not a flaw. It's not a handicap. It's actually the way, like where I see God the most. I had a friend tell me one time, like, maybe you need to like temper the like dreams and the loft. And I was like it initially I was like, oh, maybe you're right. And then I was like, God was like, no, this is my lifeline to you. This is where I see you. And so I want my kids to dream. I want them to have big goals in life. I think it goes back to the title of your podcast. I want them to do big things, and I don't want them to sit in this realm of safety and preventing disappointment and lowering the bar to meet their expectations. And I'm going to be honest, like I'm watching them do this. And so I just hope that it is a demonstrative action
Yeah.
that they see their mom living out every single day, that when they are faced with their own choice, they are inspired to look at what mom did and say, I choose that.
I love that. I love it. I knew I loved your heart before you spoke, and now I'm like, I totally love it. I was right. It's good.
Sweet, sweet, sweet.
It's so genuine. Yeah. And I mean, definitely echo all of that. You know,
Yeah.
you do. You hope your kids are getting all the good stuff. You know, you're
Yeah.
like,
it's hard.
Yeah. Because obviously you're not perfect, but you're like,
No.
and it is fun as they get older. My second born is the same age as your oldest. And it is fun to have those conversations where you're like, they can process, like they've got enough of a track record in their own life that they can like now supplement what they've watched my track
Yes.
record be like with God's faithfulness
Yes.
and the obedience and stewarding and all of those things. So it's so sweet. It keeps such a humbling perspective on the pursuits. And it does. I think that what you said about it helps our priorities kind of stay in line too, where, you know, before we go serve this group of people that we're called to, there's still a very important group in our own home. So
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, we could definitely keep on going. And I know this conversation has completely blessed me. So life-giving. I appreciate you and your time and all your wisdom. For everybody listening, tell us where we can find you, follow you, all the good things.
Yeah. So for real, letstalk.com. It's frletstalk.com. That's where any teen girl or mom can submit a question, anonymously or not. There's also a ton of free resources there. There's like lock screen downloads for teen girls, and there's like prayers, 12 prophetic prayers that moms should be praying over their teen daughters. Such great resources. And then I just launched the Literally Magazine website. It's literallymagazine.com. You can head there to subscribe. There's all different formats that you can subscribe to: individual issues, an entire year, 2 years, bulk orders, all the things. So come visit, send me a message. I love DMs. I love emails, moms, daughters, all the things. I really am just like linking arms with you, because it is such a hard season to walk through. And I'm in the thick of it myself. Like every single day, I'm like, Lord, I don't know why you picked me, but I'm just linking arms. Just continue to take a step forward and link arms. So I'm so honored that you would have me on, and it's such a gift to be able to just share a little piece of my story. So thank you for affording me that opportunity.
Yes, it's been great. It's been great. And you mentioned DM, so your Instagram handle is frletstalk as well, right? Okay.
_. So fr_lets_talk, and same with literally_magazine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
You got it.
Yay. Well, thank you so much, Kaase. I appreciate your time. And of course, everybody listening, keep those big ideas coming, and we will see you on the next episode. Hey friends, thanks so much for tuning in today. Before you go, it would mean the world to me and my family if you would share this episode with at least one person who you think might benefit from this message. And of course, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. You can also follow me at Ashlee Ilg on Instagram to keep up with our adventures and for continued encouragement as you pursue your big ideas. Thanks again for joining us. Until next time.